Good evening and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by FanDuel, live from the Sterling Soap and Rose Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. On tonight's episode, it's all Arkansas Bobby Petrino talk. We'll touch on some Hunter Yurchek Board of Trustees talk and wrap things up with a little shout out to the Derek's Outlaws, who are in the running for the $1 million Friday night 5G lights contest currently going on until October 24th. But Adam, it's been a crazy buzz. Of course, on Sunday we talked about, Sam Pittman's tenure over. We kind of knew that Bobby Petrino would be, the interim head coach, but I don't know if you or I thought that he would come in unless we're just naive to how he really is. Just how he come in and really just kind of clean house. It's funny how we've been preaching that the past month, but really clean house on the defensive side of things. And just your thoughts on what he's done since he's become the interim head coach.
It's something that I didn't necessarily expect for all three to go. And honestly, I didn't expect, you lose a head coach. I really didn't think we would lose a coordinator. I kind of looked at it like you said, maybe naive in the sense, but maybe your secondary coach, maybe, linebacker, whatever. I didn't expect all three to go. So it's one of those things, though, that he, in his mind, that's what needed to be done. The defense was obviously the one of, if not the biggest issue that this team has and had. So it's something that I totally get it. Then the question just became, well, who's going to fill these roles? And, we've already seen a couple of few people bump up, and, that's what you got to do. You just hope that, within 2 weeks, they can make some sort of sense of this defense, because that's obviously the biggest question.
And he stated that. He said, going back to the basics. And we can say what we want about the changes that need to be made, but they did. And it's the fact that, look, if he is going to be the head coach, that's what he's trying to do. Let's just, not get it twisted on. And everybody knows that he is really wanting this to be a full-time thing. He's going to come in and prove, all right, this is the changes we need to make, because if he's really trying to turn this program around, you got to make immediate changes. And the best way to do it is now during a bye week, because, all right, you get over the emotional side of Bobby Petrino. We got over that on Monday, Tuesday-ish. Same with the team. You give them time to let things sink in, but you still have 7 more games to play. And I know a lot of people, when this went down, why didn't we let it ride out the season? There's still 7 games. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go 7-0, but you still have a chance to, one, give Taylor Green something to go out on. Give this offense something to go out on. We've seen in the Memphis game and the Ole Miss game, yes, timely fumbles cost them the game, but, 1 or 2 stops in either one of these games, and it's a whole different thing. Now they let go of the rope, and the Notre Dame game was just awful. We didn't even touch on the game, on Sunday because of all the things that happened afterwards. But, this defense, if they play harder and they get in the right position and they hit the angles, they can win a couple of games. But my thing is, you can't set the bar too high and expect him. And I have to give kind of Hunter Yurchek some credit here when he said you can't wave a magic wand and pixie dust think they're going to go win 7 games. But if you can you've seen how bad this team has played on defense. If you can get this team to come out and show improvement, show fight with a base defense, one of the worst in the country of all Division I teams, he might have a chance to sit there and remove the inner tag. Whether I think it should happen or not, that's not up to me. And we can break that down in the second segment, but there's a chance to still kind of salvage this season.
There's definitely still time. And, we've seen over the years, other teams, whatnot, the head coach gets fired and there's a sense of fight that comes out of the team whenever the interim coach steps in. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but there's been a lot of times that it has. Do I think that they're going to come in here and reel off 7 straight wins? No, I don't. But at the same time, this is a team that essentially now your complete backs are against the wall. You've now lost your head coach. You've now lost 3 of your defensive coaches. So they've got to basically prove to themselves now. And, I know that it came out, I believe it was John Neighbors had spoke on, he was shocked that nobody had entered the portal. And, and it's one of those things that Keyshawn Davila, he came out after that was posted and he said, because we love each other and we're not giving up on each other, family first. And that's the mindset to have, because you saw some of the coaches or some of the players just put out their tweets and posts after Sam Pittman was relieved of his duties. I mean, they're showing love to their head coach. And that we all know, like we've all said it ourselves, that we like or love Sam Pittman as a person, just not the head coach. And these players obviously have a special type of bond with their coaches. So, that it's nothing that these guys wanted to see happen, but at the same time, it's still a business. And it's one of those things. It's good to see them, though, rallying around each other, kind of putting it out, putting the naysayers, if you will, out, that we're just expecting this team to be gutted after you lose 4 coaches. So it's something that these guys have a lot to prove, because some of these guys, too, you don't have eligibility left after this. Or if we're already past that 4-game mark for a lot of these guys playing in 4 games, so you can't redshirt. So, essentially you'd be losing a year of eligibility. So it's something in here that these guys have, whether it's to prove it to themselves, their teammates, or prove it to another team if they do enter the portal at the end of the season. These guys now have 7 games to showcase themselves versus a bowl game like we saw last season.
Yeah, and Bobby Petrino even said that. And I don't know if he was kind of being a savage part of, look, some of you guys are not going to be here next year. Use this audition for other teams, or he is doing it to try to rally them around. Look, go ahead and go to the portal. Go ahead and use these 30 days. Where are you going to go? And I've said this many a times, you're going to go hit the portal. You're going to go do individual workouts to work on your draft stock or whatever. It's hard to do that in football. You need reps. You need the fact that you still have an opportunity, especially on defense, to go out there and earn playing time, earn that you want to go out there and run to the ball and give effort to make a difference, whether you are here at Arkansas next year or not. The thing I thought was funny is just you have those few Sam Pittman fans that they are the ones playing the violin. They were going down with the Titanic. In their hearts, they knew it was time, but on social media, they're like, well, you wouldn't say this to my face, or I can't believe we let him go. Everybody knew it was time. Like, we're lying to ourselves. And if you want to look at the good for the program, if you're such a fan of Arkansas Razorback football, you knew this wasn't going anywhere. So you're in denial. And I know that's hard because Sam is that likable guy and you get connected to him. I mean, hell, when Mike Neighbors, I knew it was time, but it was hard for me to accept that he was it took me a year. Like, I was leaning toward it, but this past year when he was the coach, I was like, all right, I can no longer defend him. And that was hard. But I still was like, look, I let go of the rope. Like, okay, I see it's time. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, I still thought there was something to salvage, but with those few fans, I get it. They're huge fans. They're going to sit there and ride or die with who's the head coach, and they'll get behind Bobby. But the thing is that you got to know that you have a chance to build on what you have, because you're not going to go into the portal and magically make this as 7, 8, 9 win team next year. You just can't do it, because your defense alone. And you don't, unless the money just starts pouring in, and depending on who they hire as the next head coach, it's going to be tough to turn this thing around, but it can be done. We know, we've seen it. 2 years of football program can turn around and go from a 4 win or 2 wins to 2 years, you're an 8, 9 win team, which if that happened, Arkansas would be happy. We would be happy with that, especially going to a 9-game SEC schedule. So what I want to see is effort, because your first game now is going against Tennessee. As we start breaking down Tennessee, I mean, Adam, just the offensive side of it, 1,600 yards passing, you're averaging, and I'm going off Tennessee's website, 536 yards per game. You're averaging 45 a game. This is going to be a tough opening act for the Bobby Petrino era.
100%. And, luckily, like we talked about, especially in the timing of everything before it happened, if it was going to happen, it would have been done, for the bye week. So they had 2 weeks to prepare. Going into Tennessee, that being Petrino's first game back as head coach, essentially, that's going to be tough. 3:15 game, I think, is the time that it's slated for. So luckily it's not a night game. You just hope that there's some of that Bobby Petrino magic against Tennessee that, that we get to see. It's one of those things, though, if you didn't move off Sam Pittman, I would have hated to see what turnout would have been the following week when Texas A&M comes to Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's something that I think we're going to see. I mean, already pictures from practice or whatever. You just see. I'm not saying that all the fire is back by any means, but you kind of see his mannerisms and his body language. There's a little bit more oomph from Coach Petrino at practice. And this is just based off the little bit of video and pictures that I've seen going out there. It wasn't there prior to this, but a lot of that is because he wasn't the head coach. So he wasn't the one having to bark all the orders.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I just hope that him on the sideline, 2 weeks to prepare, that they figure out, something. I think that I wouldn't say they've been vanilla in the play calling on offense, but I think at this point, the last 7 games, like you pull out all the stops. If your defense can't do it for you, your offense is going to have to, and we can't see any of more games like what we've seen, against the entire game in Notre Dame, but then the second half of other games.
Yeah.
We can't see that. We can't see 13-point or less second halves. We can't see,
and that's on. Yeah.
That is. And we can't see 0-point quarters. So this is something that, hey, you've got 7 games as your interview. Maybe they have something decided before then, maybe not. In my head, I feel like that nothing is really going to be decided, or we won't maybe know anything until around conference championships. Just because if you're going to go get a coach that is coaching somewhere, I don't see you taking that coach from that team until around that time, because you don't want, especially if that team is potentially competing for a conference championship, you don't want them to potentially ruin whatever those current players on that team have. So I don't foresee anything happening. We may hear rumblings in November into December, but I don't see anything happening until December. So,
well, you're already hearing it now. I mean, there's people out there trying to say that Gruden was on campus today. They're going to play. Nothing's happening right now, people, because one, Bobby Petrino's in charge, and he's not going to let it happen. So these sightings or whatever. And I was listening to the Ruskin and Zach show this afternoon, and they were talking about these are going to be off-site meetings. They're not going to bring somebody in for a stadium tour. They're not going to do things in Fayetteville. They're going to have these meetings. They're going to fly to them because one, that coach is like, look, if you want me, and I'll just say the name John Gruden because he's the one that's just not coaching anywhere right now. They're going to meet off-site, or they're going to go to him. Now, if it's somebody who's currently coaching, they're probably going to go straight through agents and stuff and talk through them. But nothing, because I'll tell you what, look, throw Rhett Lashley's name out there. That guy's not going to get on a plane and come to Fayetteville and put even an inkling of leakage out there that he's in Fayetteville for the job, because it wouldn't be good for him. It wouldn't be good for anything, and everything would spread. But second segment, we'll talk about, we'll break down, do we think Bobby Petrino should be the head coach? And then we'll get into, Hunter Yurachek stuff, because address this comment right here, your thoughts and on the athletic director's comments. We'll touch on that in the second segment when we break down that side of things. But this, right, what we're talking about segment one, just talk about the Tennessee game, our initial thoughts, because we'll break down more. Sunday, we'll have the Ball brothers on our 605 show on Sunday, get their thoughts, and then deep dive, because we'll have more of a sample size of what we're seeing out of Bobby Petrino. But back to Bobby, his deal is his back is against the wall, as in there's nowhere to go from here. He is coming in with a chip on his shoulder to prove that he can do it again at Arkansas. But there is a small part of me that thinks he's here to fully right his wrongs. And I even put out there, lift the curse per se, because the football program, when all that happened, the opportunity that he is getting, I don't know if it's ever happened with this situation. Now, I know he went back to Louisville and all that stuff, but I'm talking about how things ended at Arkansas. Now he's back. He is getting a once in a million lifetime opportunity to come in and make things right. And my initial thought was he just wants to get the program back, enter tag, make up for the time lost, make up for what happened the first go around, and then hand the torch off to somebody who wants to build this program. That was my thoughts on that.
It's something that I've seen people go back and try to poke at the people who are saying, oh, Bobby doesn't want to be head coach again. Because I was one of them.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things that I was taking him at what he said when he got to Arkansas. Because why would he come in here and say, no, I want to be head coach? It's one of those like, okay, so come full circle, Coach Pittman. And there was always rumbling like this was just like coach in waiting. He's just waiting his time. And it was kind of a joke. Kind of just a, haha, we're, just joking around, whatever. The way things ended for Sam Pittman, Bobby is doing whatever Arkansas needs him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's all about righting the ship of what happened in 2012 or whatever. It's one of those things that Arkansas gave him this opportunity once again to come back. And to get this opportunity, I feel like he's going to do everything in his power to make it work. And yes, ultimately his goal would be to be the permanent head coach, because why wouldn't it be? And it's one of those things that, like, I'm on the boat of I would just like a completely new regime.
Mm-hmm.
That includes athletic director, which we can get more into the second segment. I want a complete, just new everything, top to bottom. And that is not a shot at Coach Petrino one bit. I don't mean for it to be if it comes off that way. It's just I am tired of running it back with coaches who left here for whatever reason, whether they moved on, whether they were fired, whatever it is. I'm tired of running it back with former coaches. I just want new blood. I want to see something new. I want to see somebody that wants to, or has the time even to build something.
Mhm.
I get we're in this day and age that, if you can get 6, 7, 8 years out of a coach, you've done well. But it gets tiring every 4-ish years, if not less, of being like, all right, we need to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Let's get something that lasts. And I think that you've got to do that with just a complete new head coach. Because even if it works, Bobby was named the permanent head coach. How many years do we have?
Yep.
4, 5, 6, 4 or 5 before it's retirement time. The days of Joe Paws that are here until they're 90 or whatever, however old,
Yeah.
that's done and gone. So it's just something I would just, rather than circling the block, I would just like something completely new. Now that my tune may change if we somehow got to a bowl game.
Yeah.
But if are you gonna go in and win 4 of your next 7 games? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. How I'm looking at this is, part of me wants to say, no matter what, pass the torch. But you can't sit there and deny the man if they do win 4 games and they are bowl eligible with the remaining schedule. And you can actually, now we bring that back up, because my thing is, you got Auburn and Mississippi State. Yes, Mississippi State's looked really good. That game's in Fayetteville. You have 3 games, and this is something that's not being talked about. I'm sure it will be brought up after all this dies down. But Adam, after the Tennessee game, you have 3 games in a row at Fayetteville before you go to LSU. So, I mean, there's a chance there that he could do enough to, if you win these games, to come out and say, all right. But again, if you do end up winning the Mississippi State game, Auburn game, and then that's it, I think there has to be a win where you're beating a team that before the season started, we didn't have as a win. If you win 2 games and then you go out and you get that daunted win against Missouri in the game, I think that's going to be the hardest thing. If you're in the cusp, I'm saying in the cusp. I'm not saying that, say you win 2 games and then you win a third. I mean, I'm saying, like, if you're on the cusp of him, it's coming down to the Missouri game for his job, and he does beat Missouri. That's going to be the toughest decision for them to be like, do we roll with him or not? To me, it's either got to be cut and dry. Either he's not going to be the one, or it's a clear cut, because it would be hard for them to decide, because that'd be a huge gamble of, you're not sure, but man, he beat Missouri. Should we give him the job?
And I love this, considered a hater because you think that Bobby Petrino is the answer. It's one of those things that if you want to call that a hater, that's fine. I'm not knocking anything Bobby Petrino is capable of. But there's nothing against anybody that just wants a whole new regime change in here. I just don't like the fact that for years, and this isn't just right now, but we just bring back coaches in whether it's a different position or the same position. I don't. How many times has this worked out?
Yeah.
Did Dan Enos work out? Did Sam Pittman work out? They didn't.
Barry Odom.
I mean, it's one of those that I'm tired of it. I just want something new.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's one of those that if they reeled off some convincing wins with what he was given when Sam Pittman was shown the door, then I think we have more of a conversation later in the year. But going off of where we stand right now, I'm still going off the fact that this is a 2-3 football team. So you've got a lot to prove over the next 7 to 8 weeks to change some people's minds. And you're not right, and I'm not right. Or, neither of us are wrong in what we want. You want Bobby Petrino? I don't want Bobby Petrino, is what it is. I just want the best coach to run this program. I want the best athletic director to run this program, because we haven't had either one of them in quite a while.
Yeah. And to his point, I mean, look, you can call us haters all you want, your opinion. But if Bobby Petrino would have went to Louisville and made it to the college football playoff, or with Lamar Jackson beat Clemson and made it to an ACC championship game, or did better once he left, I would be more of like, dang, that's what we really could have had a long-term success at Arkansas. But he's done the same thing where he's at. I mean, I guess if you want to count Missouri State, but it's hard to gauge that. You know what I'm saying? With that level of football, it would be a different story if he would have went to Louisville and just carried on with everything and they won more than they did, but they didn't. So I see where everybody's saying, well, he left it just kind of the same, or if not worse off than when he got there. That's my deal with Bobby Petrino. So, and we're also talking about the future of college football. We don't know where he really stands on NIL. I don't know. Have you heard anything about where he stands with NIL in the portal? Because there's a lot of people that's been throwing Dabo's name out there. I kindly shut them down. Like, you don't want that. I want to know that from him. And also, you made a good point. These next 7 games is their second half scoring, their second half play. It's going to be easy if you come out and you score 30 points in the first half, but if you flame out and don't score anything in the second half, we're getting the same product than we had. We're not showing any more any more effort coming out in the second half and closing out games than we have.
And it's one of those things here like this, Yeah, I remember the Missouri State game. BP would have beat Arkansas when he was at. Here's the thing, though: coulda, woulda, shoulda, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that boils down to. I get that they almost beat Arkansas, but they didn't. And it's one of those that I don't live in the coulda, woulda, shoulda world. I live in what happened. And again, I'm not trying to say that I don't think he deserves or should or whatever. I'm just saying that I would like a whole new regime. It's no knock at Bobby Petrino. And so I get that now we're going to have the defenders of the world coming out there for him. But at the same time, like I said, I just want the best coach for the job. If that is Bobby Petrino, so be it. I'm grateful for it. I just don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think that the world has changed. And it's one of those that if I'm wrong, like I've done before, I'll eat crow. At the same time, in this instance, I don't think I will be. And it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, hear a word from Vision Exteriors, and we'll just jump right back into getting a lot of comments, a lot of discussion on this, because we'll deep dive into, should Bobby Petrino be the head coach? We'll get into Hunter Yurchek's comments and all that right after our quick break. Looking to enhance your home's curb appeal? Look no further than Vision Exteriors. As your trusted roofing, siding, and exterior experts, we're here to transform your property. Our skilled team ensures your job is not only functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. Along with roofing, we also offer window, gutter, and siding installation to boost your home's appearance with our quality options. Visit us at www.visionexteriors.com or call us at 479-397-4770. Let's make your vision a reality. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. Just carrying on the conversation with the Bobby Petrino thing. And look, we're looking at this from a realistic point of view. The fact we're not saying he can't. I mean, there's a possibility he could. We're thinking, will he? Guys, we're not talking about 2010, 11 anymore. We're looking at 14, 15 years ago. Yeah, he had success back then. Look at what talent he had. Look at the players he had. Is he going to be able to get All-American receivers and a quarterback like a Tyler Wilson and a Ryan Mallett? Are you going to be able to go get those players? How's your defense going to be? How much money we go into this NIL stuff? Is the boosters, is the BOT behind him? Are they going to unleash the funds so he can start making changes and get players here? Another thing is coordinators. What defensive coordinator is he going to get? Who's his coordinators going to be? You can only do so much, and his role is expanded now. He's a head coach now. He's not just the offensive coordinator. So yes, he was a proven winner those seasons he had at Arkansas. and did a lot of good things. You know, he 2000, let's see, 2006 at Louisville. I'm looking at he 10-3, 11-2, 8-4 at Western Kentucky, 9-4, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5, 2-8, and 18. We know how things ended there at Louisville, and then he hasn't been a head coach, since then, except Missouri State. But you're looking down the list, and it's been 7 years since he's been a head coach. A lot has changed with this NIL. So what's going to happen when he takes the reins? And look where Arkansas needs to be at building a program of, okay, so let's say next year is a wash year. This we know next year is going to be a struggle. You're in a new 9-game SEC season, tougher opponents. We know the struggles of it. What's going to happen? Say year two, he goes out and reels off a great season, or year 3. Let's even do that. But then it drops off back in 4 and 5 again. And now year 6, we're looking at another head coach. Is that where we want to be? Or we want to go with somebody who can bring in a quality guy at offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and you build a program and you have the money for a coach or the boosters get behind the coach where you can be a 7, 9, let's say 8 to 10, 7 maybe offset every now and then, but you're aiming for that 8 to 9 pocket every single year. And if you surprise us with a 10-win season, or if you have a bad year, 7, but then you quickly rebound, your 8 to 9 pocket would be great. But who's that going to be? Is that Bobby Petrino?
I think a lot of it's going to come down to whoever it is, whether it's Coach Petrino, whether it's person A, B, or C. They've got to figure out the money situation, because guess what? It's not going anywhere. I don't know what that is, but
I guess if we get a like on Facebook,
I don't know.
Pops up.
But it's one of those things, because we've seen all this news coming out. The I don't know if you want to call it a scandal, but the NIL world. You had Hunter, which I know was brought up in one of the comments earlier about Coach Pittman not having the resources and the money and the this and the that. And, with that right there, I look at, like we've talked about, like, Hunter, that's kind of on you. You're supposed to be fundraising. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. Not. We know we've heard the rumblings that there's some donors and boosters that we're waiting for the next head coach to contribute, whether, and it's one of those things that who knows if that was really conversations going on. When you get a new head coach, we'll see if they put their money where put the money where their mouth is. But it's one of those things, if you don't have NIL, I mean, once in a blue moon, you'll have a Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State happen where you're low on NIL, but you still have a team that overperforms. It's just one of those things that we live in this world that money is king. And, I'm still, we haven't heard hardly anything at all since Remy Cofield's press conference, that he held. Like, what in this role right now, what's the GM doing? I just wonder, when it comes to these players and portal and money and this, like, I would think that you would hear more from a GM from this standpoint, because that's what they were brought in to do. So why are we hearing about it from head coaches, athletic directors, whatever?
Yeah. Because, the thing that gets me, and we'll go to Hunter Yurchek and then we'll bounce back to Bobby Petrino. But the thing that really gets me is, and I put this out there, and there's people saying that, well, of course, people outsource things, but nobody outsources everything. And you brought up a good point. Where's the GM in all this? If you have a GM, where's he at in this search for a new coach? Where's he at in this process? What's going on if you have a GM and edge and you're crapping the bed when it comes to getting NIL money? Is it because people want this hire? Because you got to realize board of trustees and your big boosters are Razorback fans. So they're speaking on behalf of themselves in their position and Razorback fans, because maybe they do want Bobby Petrino. And I'll say this, Adam, if he does prove and they show that they can be something, because we know what they are on defense. I'm looking at, are they showing more effort? Are they tackling like they're supposed to? And if they can get to some of these games where they're in the game and we know that, okay, we have the trust in the boosters and the board of trustees that we're going to commit to X amount of dollars. We're seeing other programs do this. We're not saying it, but I want to see doing it. We are giving X amount of dollars for Arkansas to build this program. Then you have to roll with it, because we know what he can do. But what's the supporting cast around him, boosters, NIL, and coordinators, going to be? If all those line up and he's successful to a point in these last 7 games, like I said in the first segment, you got to give him the nod.
I think at this point, if you give him that, and honestly, that should be a part of the conversation, which I'm sure it will be, that he has. You're getting to this point. Does he have coordinators in mind? Does he have other coaches, position coaches in mind? And you brought up a good point. We've never heard, anything like where he stands with NIL and such. So are these conversations that are being had behind the scenes, behind closed doors? There's a lot going on that none of us are privy to when it comes to, obviously, NIL money, our administration. At the same time, you can't go into this next coaching change, whether Coach Petrino is permanent, whether you bring in another coach, and give them the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Because we've seen where that's got us before.
Another thing, and this is, another caution, because we've seen it with Saban. We've seen it with the other coaches. We've seen it with Dabo. Can these new players, can players in the NIL transfer portal handle his coaching style? Because this isn't anything bad with Bobby Petrino. We're all old school. We're all old heads here. We like that old school type of coaching and stuff. But is that going to conform to these kids that think they should be getting more playing time, and he just flat out tells them, no, you're second string, or if you don't like it, hit the road? How is that going to affect his program? Because in all reality, he can be a great scorer. He could be a great offensive mind. You could win 6-7 wins a year. But if you don't have your full team locker room behind you, which we clearly hearing the rumbles of, there was a clear disconnect between the offense and defense. How is that going to carry over to this next group, this next era, if they know if they don't like what he's saying, they can just jump in the portal and go play for another team?
It's one of the, I hope that in the coming weeks, we just hear a lot of solidarity coming out of the locker room, coming out on this team. Because I agree that I think that the disconnect between the offense and defense is one of the biggest issues that this team has had. So it's one of those that they just have to flip that switch and realize it's them against the world. So whether it's for, you, your teammates, your future with another team, whatever the case may be, just, show up and show out. And that's all you can do at this point.
And this right here, he's going to make a believer of you guys. Eat your words. We're not saying he's going to fail. We're not saying that he's going to come in and do these, or we are just showing our concerns of, there's a lot of things to think about with this, because he has been the offensive coordinator. In these 4 games, we've seen this team play flat in the second half on offense. This, we could say all we want about the defense. They're the easy target, but you still have to bring up the fact that in a game where your backs are against the wall, you knew, and this kind of goes into the players that are expressing their feelings online after the game, but they're the ones not doing the effort. That is part of the reason why we said it was time to go, because clearly you're not giving the effort on the team, on the field. Or if you were, this wouldn't be an issue. because you would have probably won the Ole Miss game and the Memphis game, and now you're looking at Notre Dame being your only loss. So the players has to take some accountability on this too. It's just it keeps happening. So it was time for a change. But look, you know what? We as Razorback people, fans, would love Bobby Petrino to come in and set fire to this program and turn this thing around. And I've stated, you give Arkansas 3 full seasons, because we've said on past shows, we don't know how many years Cal has left. We don't know how many years Dave Van Horn has left. If Bobby Petrino comes and turns this thing around and you have 3 full years of 2021, people are going to be handing money hand over fist. You're going to have kids wanting to come play for the football team like they're wanting to come play for Cal. You're going to have the recruits like you did in baseball, but you have to win games. That's what it all comes down to. And if he can rally this team and they can win games, and he has shown that he deserves the job, I'm all for giving the person the job if he deserves it. But we can't just give him the job because he is Bobby Petrino and what he did 15 years ago. We can't do that.
100%. And we all know how I am in the world of pettiness. So, Mr. Bill, I'll screenshot your comment and we will circle back to this at the end of the season. And it's one of those things, like I said earlier, and I've said multiple times, I am more than happy to eat crow when need be. But at the same time, when also need be, I will show the receipts. So, it is what it is. We all want things to work out, however they're going to work out. Whether it's this team goes 7-0, 6-1, 5-2 the rest of the season, this team gets bowl eligible, Bobby Petrino stays on, whatever happens, we want the best for this team and this program in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, how are they going to get there? And it's a matter of time. We're next week, we'll get to see what steps they've taken to get to that point.
Yeah. And we'll see more actions. And to hit our last segment, or last part of the second segment, moving on to Hunter Yurchek, I think that's a change that still needs to be made. I'm sorry. It's easy now that Sam Pittman's gone, got Bobby Petrino. Now you're saying it's hard for me to sit here and trust a man who says money wasn't an issue. Sam Pittman said money wasn't an issue. And then you come on and say, well, we're not set up to win an SEC championship, or we're not set up to win a college football national championship, but we're able to compete in the SEC. Well, no, you're not, because that's an oxymoron statement. Then you come out and say the man didn't have the resources needed to do his job. And the fact is, that's your job. And then on top of that, you don't have a stadium name. The Edge is a complete joke right now. And I want to make very clear on what I said the day that Pittman got fired. The Edge come out with those shirts that said, win one for Bobby. It was the day that he got fired. I'm not saying don't rally around Bobby Petrino. Fans, that's what you're supposed to. But so you put that out, the dude ain't even packed his bags out of his office yet and went to wherever he was going. You're already putting those out there. It was very bad taste. I think it was very disrespectful, because Sam was a good guy. He did some good things here. Yes, it didn't end well, and everything turned into a dumpster fire. But for you to come out hours later and already put that kind of stuff out there, it was just too soon. Like that was my point on that. But when it comes to Hunter Yurchek, he's got to make changes in not just what he says, but what he does. He's going to have to go out there and get some donors and boosters on his side, because from what I'm hearing, it's a tough nut to crack right now with getting boosters to trust you to give you money. And then everything's coming out about this. Oh goodness, the name of the blueprint. Mm-hmm. So you outsource that company gets X amount of dollars of the NIL fund. So we don't know where any of this money is going that you do. Is Hunter is the ADs getting any kickback from this? How does that work? Your raffle that goes to the foundation. A lot of questions need to be asked. And to me, I still think he's on the hot seat unless he changes his actions with the commitment that I set. We are giving this X amount of dollars because you know what? Hunter Yurchek can say he's not for NIL, but if he still does it and he's still willing to build a football program here, then so be what his personal opinions are, because that's personal. He is still trying to build a football program.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of those things with this, the stuff coming out about Blueprint Sports, like it raised a heck of a lot more questions.
Yeah.
I mean, with Oregon State's deal, you know, out of $3 million, this Blueprint Sports got 1.54 million out of it. So they got a little over half of that money. And how you, as an athletic director, like whether you didn't read the fine print or whether you knew, and like you said, you're getting maybe some sort of kickback or whatever, how you could think that this was good when you signed up or signed on for it, like I just don't get. And for the fact that they had 25 plus teams a week ago, and now they're down to 5 teams that are a part of this, that right there tells you that this was a scam. I mean, and it's one of those things, just come out and admit that you got scammed. But I know pride gets in the way sometimes. But, you know, whether it's been the AD, whether it's been Edge posting those shirts, timing has been a terrible thing for some of the posts that have been made by the two throughout the course of recent history. And it's one of those things that please figure it out sooner or later. And it's one of those that I know that you don't have to come out and let us all know like what the plan is. But at the same time, being mum on the whole thing while this stuff is coming out, get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Speak out against it if you want to save any grace that you may have left, because I'm personally, I feel like you're out of it.
Yeah. And that's, you know, coming into the season, we knew Sam was on the hot seat. All right, prove us that you can get this team back. You can get bowl eligible. You can win 7 games, surprise us. That clearly didn't even last the first bye week. Now it's Hunter Yurchek's turn. Prove us that you're willing to commit to release the funds, go get the money. You know, because, you know, again, another thing we heard about with a lot of people, let Sam Pittman ride this thing out. You're wasting $3 million on his buyout. When now we hear about all these things being outsourced and how many millions of dollars is this costing you when it should be your job to do it in the first place. So you can't sit there and be behind somebody and be like, well, they deserve to keep their job because we want to save some money, but then you realize how much they're wasting. And we don't know how much money the players were really getting. And we don't know where this money is going that this raffle is, even with the winners.
Have they named the new winner yet?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so.
They would.
Wasn't me. So the conspiracy theories will still be running until whoever we said, was it Rodney and Pine Bluff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Until Rodney and Pine Bluff wins, we'll keep our conspiracy theory going of who the winners are.
All right. And before we go, a good friend of mine down in Derek's, Cody Tedford, and then been all over the news this week about the Derek's Outlaws being in the running for the T-Mobile 5G Friday Night Lights, $1 million renovation for their stadium. And it's really cool. They are the only school in Arkansas left. They are currently in first place. So I don't have a link set up, so my apologies, but we've made a couple of posts. Matt Jones has made a video. Tyler Wilson's made a video. There's going to be more coming. So if you could go to the T-Mobile 5G Friday Night Lights contest, Derek's is in first place. You can vote once a day till October 21st. That would go a very long ways in supporting them. And I seen the video that Sully did, and their stadium could really use the money. And it's really cool that a small town of 2,000 people is in first place for this type of award.
Definitely. You know, it's one of those that just rally around them. Doesn't take a whole lot.
Go vote. Go vote for the Outlaws. Win that $1 million prize. Adam, you got anything else?
I do not.
All right. Well, we're going to be hitting the road virtually to Tennessee because at 8:05 we'll be jumping on with the Vol brothers Tennessee podcast at 8:05. So if you want to watch us over there on their platform, 8:05, and they'll be joining us on Sunday at 6:05 to break down some Tennessee Volunteers, Arkansas coming up the following week. So for Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, comment, all of our sponsors, listening to the Hog Talk podcast presented to you by FanDuel, and we will catch you on Sunday. Had to remember there for a second.